Hello and welcome to the Jeepin Bubba podcast. I'm your host, Brad Jeepin Bubba Coron, and today I have a good friend and a guest with us, Mr. Jay Lee here of Tire Distributors of Georgia, and we're just gonna have a little conversation. It's early. I'm usually cranky in the morning, but I got my coffee, so we should be okay.
I'm always cranky.
Well, honestly, if I was in the tire business, I'd probably always be cranky too.
It helps.
Yeah.
It's a skill set you need.
Well, you have to deal with all the egos, especially mine, of all the shop owners, so.
Yours is certainly flourishing.
It's getting bigger by the day, right? Yep. So, Jay, for those that are listening, tell them who you are, what you do, and maybe give us a little of the brief history of how you got into this business.
Brief history. My dad was a former car guy.
Yeah.
Then he went into the full-time ministry in 1968.
Wow.
But all the way through because he went back to college, so he always bought and sold a lot of Volkswagens, locked up motors. So we kind of, in high school, my brother and I we got to where we flipped so many cars that we opened our own shop.
Yeah.
And then we decided to go to college, which may or may not have been the right decision, but we did it anyway.
Sure.
And so in Macon, I went to Mercer in Macon, and I met some really cool guys, real cool companies, and they kind of let me work through my school schedule, and was able to work full time through the week and on the weekends and all the spring breaks and summer breaks, and they were great guys, good companies.
Sure.
And then I went to moved away from more generalized automotive stuff to specifically tires in probably 88.
Okay.
And went with the Kaufman Tire Group wholesale.
Yeah.
And then started in the Atlanta branch.
Sure.
And then opened up Macon and went to Cincinnati, GM'd some branches as they went out to became Treadmax. And then went with Tire Distributors just to get a little more independent feel of things. Sure. And of course, the consolidation in the industry has, if you want to be independent, you got to go with you have to go with the smaller companies.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
If you enjoy independent thinking for yourself.
Sure.
So the industry is really forcing you almost to be one or the other.
Yeah, there's definitely the corporate shops and the independents, and there's nothing like each other in at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've been doing tires as long. I was born in '89, so as long as I've been alive, Jay Lee's been doing tires.
Yeah.
Slinging tires, selling them.
Yep.
What's your title at Tire Distributors of Georgia?
I was a wholesale warehouse manager. I recently changed up to outside sales.
Yeah.
And it was a nice change, breath of fresh air, get out of the box.
Sure.
I did my branch time. I was a branch manager for 32 years.
Wow.
So I did my time on the inside.
Sure.
But I've always enjoyed the sales side of that quotient. So I would always have an assistant manager who was a good operator, and I would help the
play
outside
on the
sales
sales
guys
side.
themselves.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, so we use the company Jay works for, Tire Distributors of Georgia. We've got a couple different wholesalers that we use, but they're our main one. I'm not saying that because he's here. They're our main squeeze. That's what we use a lot, because when you call up there, it's like calling a family business. A lot of these distributors, like, they're actually owned by bigger companies. Like Mavis has their own wholesale side of business, and it just to be like Full Parts had Transamerica, so it's like. But when you call these guys, that's all they do is help and provide tires. And if I order at a certain time, I got them next day. Sometimes I can get them in the morning, or if I really panic, I call Jay and our buddy Gene, who is the man on the inside, and they take care of business. And they carry a lot of the best brands out there. We've worked with them for a while, and me and Jay actually met through Jeeps, and they're great company was the company that basically got me in on the deal with Yokohama that I got to go out to Moab. I think we got to know each other a little bit better on that trip, but we had fun. I mean, those trips are insane. What they spend, not just Yokohama. I mean, other companies do it over the years, and it's getting less popular as budgets get tighter and whatever. But that was a lot of fun to go out there and play with those tires. And what was crazy was like figuring out that the all-terrains had just as much traction as like the MTs in Moab, which is not the case in the southeast. But how long have you been into off-road? I mean, I know. Have you had a Jeep before your JL that you have now? Is this the first Jeep? Yeah.
Well, I had a 78 Cherokee Chief
in
high school.
Well, those are, man, if you still had that, that'd be...
I know, exactly. Exactly, but it was from the coastal Savannah area, so even back in the early 80s, the tailgate was rusting.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, we'd take it out there in the back of the swamps and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It would get stuck right smart.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I know you, for a while you had that Chevy, you called it like, you had the big marshmallow,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I did. I had the, started off, I guess, off-road proper would have been, I had a 2019 ZR2. Mm-hmm. And that kind of got me...
Those are actually pretty good.
Pretty doggone capable.
Yeah, my dad had one. I was pretty impressed with it.
Yeah. So I started off there, and then... Of course, was still kind of trying to manage two hobbies: my LSX addiction and off-road.
Yeah.
And so thought I might want a little bit bigger rig, so I went to a full-size Chevrolet. And my idea for this Tahoe, I was going to build this truck to take to Moab. Mm-hmm. And so I built that truck. I took it to Moab, and it was crazy. When I got home, I was done with that build. I immediately sold it and got the JL.
Yeah.
Just for the things Jeeps do, articulation.
Yeah. I remember the phone call. You're like, great ride out there, but it's time for a Jeep.
Yeah. It was. So
what have you thought?
Bradley is quite an ambassador for the brand.
That's right, Jeep. If you're listening, I need a full sponsorship.
Exactly. He's quite the ambassador. He's sold quite a few.
What have you thought about your Jeep so far?
I like it.
Because you've taken it out with us locally, but you've been out recently to Moab, so you've really, you put it through the gauntlet.
Yeah, all good things so far. If I could see where there could potentially be some quality issues. Mm-hmm. I can see that. I understand that, but I can't say that the quality issues that you might have in a new JL or a JT aren't going to be the same as some of these full size gremlins out there in some of the other brands.
I think it's easy to pick on Jeep and Stellantis, but everyone's having problems. Like there's a recall on the Broncos right now for the shock reservoirs falling off of them, and then like Toyota's having issues with motors, and it's like. Yeah, you can't just alienate them, but people, I think they like to because, I don't know, Mopar's always been a little bit of the outsider, putting more horsepower and everything, trying to be the cool kid, and it's like, pick on them, it's easy, and Toyota people, don't get me started, but they're just like, Toyota guy would be like, this thing will run forever. I mean, this motor's going to go forever. I've had to put a transmission in it, a starter, 10 batteries. I've had to tune it up. We built the top end, but it's going to go forever. But any car will if you put that into it. Exactly. It's just a mindset. And I think what's good about most people's Jeep mindset is that most people who buy a Jeep have no thoughts of it being practical. It's like, sure, I've got to get to work. But it's a big square. It's not aerodynamic. It's probably going to be a little noisier, a little bumpier. And people buy them, and you'll see them sell them 6 months, a year later, or they'll have them the rest of their lives because they get hooked, they get the bug. And same thing with off-road. I see people come out, and they're like, I don't know if that was for me. Or they're like, hey, what's the next step to go to the next level? I think you might be started down that second path.
And we've talked at length before. I've done my time with the muscle cars, and from big block Chevrolets to forced induction LS cars.
Sure.
I guess my final hot rod was the 2019 Z011 LE,
Yeah.
which I promise you, there's not much more I would want
Yeah.
in a vehicle.
Yeah.
Not that I was capable of driving it to its limit.
That's the good thing about a Jeep. It won't get you in trouble on the street with the police, for the most part,
Yeah, it's good for your points.
That's right.
It's good for your points.
Yeah, that horsepower, man, that's hard to ignore when you get out there driving.
But I've enjoyed Jeepin and my my personal situation. I don't use it as a daily driver.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's nice. Yeah.
I bought it in September 23. It just rolled over 12,000 miles.
Mm-hmm.
So it's spent as much time on trails as it
Yeah.
has
Or driving out to
driving
Moab.
about. Yeah, or getting the trails.
Yeah.
That was, what was that, 3,500 miles?
Yeah, it is.
Something like that. So that's the majority of the miles I put on it was the trip to Moab. And,
Yeah.
I'm planning Daniel Boone Backcountry Byway. And
I've always wanted to go. Yeah, I haven't got to go yet, but people tell me.
Going.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to. Okay. Oh man.
We're going.
Yeah. Man, I've kind of opened up like Pandora's box here with this Comanche because I don't think they'll hear this on the podcast now, but I don't think it'll be announced yet. So maybe by the time the podcast come out, it'll be announced. But we officially will be in the Empower Lighting booth for SEMA. We'll be inside SEMA in their booth. And with that, now comes a lot of responsibility because they're giving us a lot of products. I think we'll be out in Vegas for a week this year to make this all happen. And so it's like, I started looking at all the trips and events and things. And I'm like, man, it's one thing when it's in a rendering and pictures and you're like, oh, it's just wrap it, you put the new trans in. Right. And every time I'm working on it now, I'm like, ooh, I need to paint that. Oh, I forgot I needed a door handle. Oh, I'm going to have to polish this chrome. This thing's become a beast. But I got a wheel this year, too, or I'll go crazy.
Well, I can attest. You're normally a pretty hardy young man.
That's right.
Very hardy.
Yeah.
But when I saw you when you got back from your last trip to SEMA, you were tired.
I was tired. Yeah. That was a lot. Yeah, that was a lot. And that one was already pretty built before SEMA. This one, it's a build up to it, But yeah. And we got your Jeep in here today. We're going to be putting some new shocks and springs in it. So I'm interested to see what you think about that. You've got the Extreme Recon package. Is that correct? Yeah. So we're just, we're seeing if we can improve upon what they've done.
Yeah. Exactly. And get me off the bump stop.
Yeah. I think you'll like it. We're doing some Fox. We're doing some JKS and good products.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Speaking of products, I know you can't be too biased because you sell a lot of brands, but what are your kind of favorite treads that you're seeing right now? Not like I'll tell you personally, one real popular one here recently is the Toyo RT Open Country Trail, not just the regular RT. Mm-hmm. I also saw that they just made they're doing another RT. Like Toyo's come out with, I'll try to find this picture, and you can tell me what you think, but they're coming out with like another RT on top of it. So they say they're not changing the MT anytime soon, even though it's been the same for 20 years. And I've liked this new RT segment, like the Falcon. I like the look of them. I've not owned one. I'm even thinking about maybe putting an RT on the Comanche. But what are your kind of, without being too, biased towards brands, because you do sell a lot of great brands. But is there any tread patterns that you're just like, man, that looks good, or what has caught your eye recently?
I guess for myself personally, I'm a big devotee to unsprung weight.
Yep.
I like light a tire wheel assembly as I can get.
Sure.
I know some people with gear ratios, some people with different transmissions and different transfer cases.
Yep.
Can use a heavier tire, and that's fine. But I'm completely. I would say I like a little more aggressive all-terrain tire, up to an RT.
Yeah.
But I certainly do not have a problem, and in the future I will have a set of MTs.
Sure.
Or a set of wheels.
Well, the MTs.
For places like Kentucky.
The MTs have come so far in the last couple of years where it's like, traditionally, if you bought an MT, what you sacrificed was noise and mileage. But that's just not the case anymore. Like, these MTs will get over 40,000 miles. They're really, like those Yokohamas I had, they were quiet. There was no noise to those tires. Yeah. They gripped, they ripped. So it wasn't really like a sacrifice to get those tires. Now, the downside is light snow, rain, not the same traction as if you had an all-terrain or something like that. When we went out riding in the snow the other day, you had your all-terrains out there, and you're probably gripping better than anybody. So people don't get that.
right. Yeah, I was not having the traction issues of some of the bigger MT fellows.
That's right.
Sure, because ATs, driving in snow is sort of counterintuitive.
Yeah.
And that AT loads up in the snow, and you get more traction.
Sure.
Snow to snow.
Yeah.
You lived in Michigan. I lived right on the Ohio border, so we know all
about those games.
Crazy enough, like I'd say the number one tire people bought when I lived in Michigan was the Goodyear Duratrack, because probably not the best rubber on the planet, but the tread pattern was a perfect snow tire in the winter. People they couldn't keep them in stock there. Like, they'd put them all as their winter tire. I'm going to show you this tread design. That is the new Toyo Open Country RT Pro.
Wow.
They just keep adding things to the RT name. Let's see if I can throw this up and you'll see it. Yeah.
Very KM, ain't it?
Yeah, it's something.
KM.
It almost looks like Duratrek KM as well.
Yeah, KM.
So interesting to see how it does.
Yeah, my personal experience though, to me, one of my favorite tires is the Falcon Wild Peak MT.
Yeah, absolutely.
To me, this.
What's on the JL?
When you put them on, they're, as far as the decibel feedback you get from them, they're super quiet. I think they're the quietest MT out there.
Yeah.
They are usually a few pounds lighter than the equivalent Toyo or Nitto, which is personally I would go that route.
Yeah.
At the second tier level, is a
sure.
called the tire industry.
Yeah.
There's the tire building technology is narrowed so much. There's not really a lot of. It's just a material thing at that point.
Yeah, I mean, so in the last 5 years, I've had Nitto trail grapplers, all empty. So Nittos, Toyos, Yokohamas, and the Falcons. And I would say, to me, the Nittos were the quietest and lasted the longest. But not being a Nitto hater, because I had them for years and years. I think they had the worst off-road traction of the four. They had good off-road traction, but they have such a hard compound to keep those people buy Nittos because they're thinking mileage for the most part, and quiet. The Falcons are a little bit softer, so I think they don't quite get the same mileage, but still quiet. But I think they get a lot hotter off-road and you start spinning them, and then you start noticing the grip. And Yokohamas were somewhere in that middle between them, but I was happy with all four. I don't think you could buy any four of those tires and be upset. I think everything else, I won't even name any other brands, but anything else outside of those tires, there's going to be some things that you're going to be like, man, this did not meet that. And there's some good brands out there too that make them, but I know a lot of people buy certain brands for the looks of them or the particular sizes that they make that maybe that Nitto or Toyo or Yokohama don't make. So it's like, well, I really wanted a Nitto, but this company is the only one that makes this size or whatever, and so they end up with them. I mean, during COVID, we sold every brand under the sun. I learned new brands during COVID because it's like we couldn't get the tier 1 or tier 2 tires. It was a difficult time. So then we were a new company. So, I mean, we sold a ton of different brands, and that'd be when I'm texting Jay and I'm like, "Hey, I've never heard of this company. Can you give me an honest feedback on this thing?" And he's never steered me wrong, so I appreciate it. Yeah. Well, we got about 2 minutes before Evan walks in here.
I think we had and Moab was a great lesson for the expectations of tread patterns and what they do and how well those all-terrains, they were putting the contact patch down on that slick rock.
Yep.
And they were just pulling all day long. I was on a Jeep that had the MTs.
Yep.
And it would get a little jumpy on some of the intense angles.
Somebody told everybody that I knew how to off-road on this trip. And so they stuck me with the ATs. And like I normally do before I get on the trail, I check the tire pressures in the rental Jeep, and they were at like 37 PSI. And I was like, hey, can I air these down a little bit? And he's like, you won't need to. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I was like, let me just get them down to 35 or something.
Right.
So I snuck around and let a little air out while we were getting stuff at the gas station. But we didn't slip hardly once, And it was funny to watch the other guys. There was a group ahead of us that weren't with us. And they're just... And then we were right behind the main instructor. And I was like the number 2 Jeep. And we just like never broke traction. Just went right up. I mean... The only downside we had so the Yokohama has their AT, their XAT, an MT, and I believe they have an extreme MT, like a further level. I've never gone down that rabbit hole. My only negative on that AT is it's so unaggressive looking, but it's deceptive because when you're on the trail, it actually works really well. But you look at it and it's just like kind of like the Bridgestone Dueler ATs. You look at one on a truck and you're like. Yeah. Is that an AT or a highway tire? It's just, but they actually Bridgestone Dealers too work pretty well.
Yeah. You got to give Nitto props. They draw nice looking tires.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And they give them cool names. The Recon Grappler.
They do it. They do a great job marketing and how they present their product. Visually.
Well, and what they do a good job at spending money on in the racing side of the world and making people. They do a good job at making themselves look cool. Every year at King of the Hammers, it's like, the top 10 finishers drove Nitto. One guy drove a Falcon. One guy had a Mickey Tom, and one BFG. And then and everyone goes, then it must be Nitto. But it's like they just do a good job at using that marketing money.
Absolutely, they do.
But it's still a great product, for sure. But yeah. So what's next? Do you got any trips planned? Oh, were you talking about I know you said Daniel Boone, but there was another trip. What are you and Kirkland up to? What are y'all?
Well, we're gonna go.
Shout out
we're
Kirkland.
gonna do the backcountry byway.
Okay, that's the big one for this year.
Yeah, and maybe take a break from the
Moab.
long trips.
Yeah,
but after that, maybe Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
So I told them
that's
about
the promised
my
land.
altitude issues, but
Colorado's going to be the worst for it. But I mean, it bothered me when I was in Colorado, but it was worth it.
Yeah.
I don't just like
when
I had to suck it up at times, but I was like, this sucks at the moment. When I get home and look back on it, I'm gonna be like, I got to do that. That was cool,
Yeah. My second time through it, because we drove through there. We went through the Colorado way going out to Moab.
Yeah.
We were hitting 12,000 feet up in the passes, and I felt a little jittery for sure, but nothing like the first time. So
it gets
because you said you got acclimated.
Oh yeah,
pretty decently.
Yeah. The weird one this year, I haven't been out west in a couple years other than to go to SEMA. So this year at SEMA, I rented a Jeep so I can get the badge of honor out there. And when you're in Vegas, I think it's like 1,000 feet or 1,500 feet. Mm-hmm. That trail where the badge is at like 8,500 feet. And then you get there in about 30 minutes from the strip. So you go from nothing to just boom, and that's not that high, but it's like it was hot in Vegas when I left, and it was like 30 degrees colder in those mountains, and you're like, man. So I was out there stuck, turtled, getting unstuck, and it's like, I can't breathe. It's cold. What is going on? I'm gonna die.
I'm right there with you. I've lived on the East Coast most of my life. So never lived in high altitudes much at all.
No. Buford's like 600 feet.
only been Macon for 21.
It's even lower.
21 years. It's like
it might have been 20 feet.
It's like 100 feet above.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a lowlander.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. Yeah, for sure. Tell me. So I had my buddy Harold has a place near Steenahatchee. I think he's in Keaton Beach or something like that. But what was that trail that you did last summer? It was like something like...
Oh, the Florida Adventure Trail.
Florida Adventure Trail, yeah.
So I picked that up like right outside of if you're at Cape San Blas,
okay,
and you head east. What's that little town, Apalachicola?
That's right. Yeah.
So I picked
which is right above Steenahatchee, Apalachicola, and then
so I kind of picked it up from there, and it was.
Is there a section? What was it like? Is it Hell's something?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's what I was. That's where I was.
Yeah. So Harold was asking me about, we got a camper down there. We're gonna, and I was like, my buddy Jay did that recently, and it's funny. It's funny to think about off-roading in Florida because there's not the mountains, right. But what was it like? Like, was it just kind of like scrubby or sand?
Sand, and you would go through. It was almost like reminiscent South Georgia, like plantations for trees.
Sure.
So a lot of straight road cuts.
I like that kind of riding. Like we did the Georgia Adventure Trail, and it's like one section you're in a pine straw farm, then you're in a cotton field, and it's like just smooth. I mean, you can kind of really bomb through that stuff because it's soft and it's just not a lot of people out there. Right. It's pretty. You don't get the elevations. Not super difficult. No. I mean, some of that sugar sand can get you, but if you're down, it's probably not a big deal.
And probably the fun little things. You'd have these washouts.
Yeah.
They may be 3 or 4 feet deep, and you could just angle through them. That was fun. Mm-hmm. And there was a couple areas where they had some old growth trees, so there was some soil.
Yeah, and I love when the trees hang over down there, like you're like going through them.
Yeah. You would. You had some pretty good little mud holes.
Yeah, that's good.
But it was fun. No
it was winching. A lot of. Did it connect?
Winching.
That's good. Yeah,
no winching.
Did it connect town? Like, did you go like through sections where you just didn't see anything, and then you'd get like to a town, or was it like pretty populated in houses, or like because the Georgia Adventure Trail is like you get going and you could ride for an hour before you got to some town, and when you got to that town, it was like a Piggly Wiggly and a Dollar Tree, and then you were back on the trail.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, and that's what the rest of my experience. Once I got to that Hills Gate or whatever it's called, at Hills Forest or whatever it is. Once I got out of that, it was a mile of dirt road, 10 on the highway. Yeah, and it had some waypoints. Cool. Go stop at this little store, or do whatever. And, I didn't stop much, but I think I probably did 120 miles.
Wow.
And but it was pretty flat, pretty compacted conditions.
Cool. Yeah. Have you ever done Ocala? You ever been to the National Park?
No, I never did that.
It's pretty similar. I mean, it's got it's like 3 wide when you come in, so you can have a couple vehicles going, and it's pretty deep, thick sand. But then all the offshoots are like tight, single tracks. Mm-hmm. They're known for pinstriping people. I was pretty smart, and I got some local advice on some places to go and not pinstripe my Jeep, but it's similar. So we're gonna be there. This is probably coming out. This podcast is gonna come out on the what's today? We're the 7th, so it's coming out probably on the 10th or 11th. So 2 weeks after that, we'll be at Save Expo in Florida, which is like 30 minutes from Ocala. So I've been there before. But I'm thinking, do I want to go back, or just we'll see how much the event wears us out. So,
where is that?
So it's in Stark, Florida, which is kind of in between Gainesville and Ocala, and it's at this place called the Firm, which is a rallycross course that used to be an airfield. It used to be like a rural airport, and then they made like a rallycross course, and then they decided to make like an off-road track in the back. And then I think they've been doing it now. This might be the 5th or 6th year, but I think they said they had around 1,500 people last year there. But the thing is, you can come in and set up. Early camping starts Thursday. The vendor show starts Friday. Goes through Sunday at 2. So everyone comes in with their overland rigs. All the vendors can actually camp in their booths. So we'll be in the Can Cut booth. Andy's going to be at the Mac Tool Show. So he's trusting me and his number 2 at Can Cut, Katrina, to behave, which is not going to happen. But we're bringing the whole family down. She's going to have like the booth set up for Can Cut, and then Blue Jeep and the trailer will be fully set up in their booth, and we'll be camping for a couple days.
He's in good hands.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
You can do
He'll be fine. Yeah. And then I have to behave actually because I'll be in his booth at G Beach in Jeep Invasion. So, yeah. We're gonna have. We're also gonna go to Panama this year for the Jeep Jam. So that's 2 weeks after Daytona.
Right.
And then at Jeep Invasion this year, the Comanche will be in Andy's booth, and Blue Jeep will be in Empower's booth. So we'll be packed out at that show. So it's gonna be
real well represented.
Last year I said I'm just not doing as many shows next year. I'm gonna wheel more, and I've done the opposite. But that's it about being a business owner. But well, my guys are gonna get here soon. We're about to pull your Jeep in and rip some springs out and throw some shocks in. But I appreciate you coming on, Jay.
Thank you for having me.
Jay's not a social media influencer. He's an excellent source of knowledge and salesman at Tire Distributors of Georgia. But you are on Facebook, correct? So if you want to find this beautiful man, you can look up Mr. Jay Lee. Or if you're in the automotive business and looking for tires in the state of Georgia and a little bit in Florida, right, as well?
Yep. We got a North Florida as well.
We got a good buddy that running the show down there, Mr. Triple Double himself.
Yeah,
we won't share that story.
Exactly. I can help Triple Double work your booth for you.
Yeah.
No.
I don't think so. He can. Yeah, he's like more of a bar back than a booth runner. But yeah. Anyways, so the guys are coming in. We're gonna get to work. But I appreciate you coming on, and
Thank you so much.
thanks for talking about tires and Jeeps and all that good stuff.
You bet.
All right, see you, Jay.
Thanks. Bye.